Yo, what's up? This is Gavin. Today we're going to be going through a warm-up routine that I've made that is designed for shredders, for crazy players, for fast players. Maybe you're just a rhythm player, but you play extreme metal, you play fast stuff, play fast guitar music, difficult, complicated, fast guitar music. This is for you. And what this is a guided warm-up. I'm going to show you it. I'm going to give you an unedited version of me running through it. I'll go on to explain each section in case you don't know what's going on. And then at the end, there is a guided warm-up with a metronome where I tell you what to do throughout it. You can scrub through it at whatever pace you need if you feel like you already know everything that's going on, just want to try the warm-up, or if you want to learn more about all the different details and that sort of thing, just watch the whole thing, whatever. This is a guided warm-up, and I'm emphasizing warm-up as in this routine is different from what you do, and the mindset is kind of different from when you are in a regimented practice session, a regimented practice routine. One of the big differences, I think, is that in a warm-up, there's a little more improvisational element. It's a little more free-flowing. You could be sort of changing what you're playing a little bit on the fly, because the purpose really it's not so much encoding the information like you would in a practice session, but it's physically warming up the body, getting yourself physically at the spot that you need to be to play something hard or to practice something hard, basically. Whereas when you're doing regimented practice, unless you're practicing improv, you don't really have an improvisational element. You want to be very controlled and playing the exact same thing every time. And so here, that's a bit different for this warm-up, because it's really like, there's a specific thing we're targeting in each section of the warm-up. How you do that is flexible, and you can sort of change it up as you go. It's all about feeling your body, having sort of a sense of what you need at that moment to, warm things up, not hurt yourself, but also push yourself enough so that you are getting to where you need to be. It can't cover everything. I'm sure there's a bazillion great different things I didn't include here that you could put in your warm-up. This is just what I've used and has found that has worked for me. So without further ado, I will show you what it looks like when I just run through it. So for the first minute, we're just going to start with strumming chords. You can play any chords you want. I'm in drop C right now. It doesn't matter what tuning you're in for this warm-up. It doesn't matter if you have a 7-string or 8-string guitar or whatever. And so I like to play bar chords generally at the beginning, or I should say chords that use a whole finger being barred. And the reason that I like that, I think it's important to just basically, what we're getting from this is we're just activating the grip strength. We're just getting the whole hand's blood flowing and the arm kind of activated to support it, because that's really the easiest thing that we can do when we're totally cold. You don't want to be playing any sort of complex melodic lines or whatever. Or you can, but it might be more difficult. And the thing that we like about the right hand is that we're starting with these big coarse motor movements when we're strumming. We're not worried about individual string picking or whatever yet, because it feels very natural. It's a lot just like moving your arm, which you should be able to do at all times. And then you can start to get a sense of rhythm and stuff and just sort of ease into the whole process. The next thing we're going to work on is really bulky. You're going to get a lot from this. And we're going to spend 4 minutes on it, and that's the 24 permutations. And so if you don't know what the 24 permutations is, it's basically just chromatic runs. I'm sure everyone knows that sort of basic run. The 24 permutations is basically just expanding on that with every combination of how you could use your 4 fingers on your left hand. So those two very common ones, those two common chromatic whatever things, are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, 3, 2, 1. Meaning we're using first, second, third, fourth finger, and then descending. What the 24 permutations do is they take every combination of that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, and so on. You don't need to hear them all, but you get the point. And so the way that I like to play those is I start on the first fret, and I do 1, 2, 3, 4, up. And then I do 4, 3, 2, 1, down once I've moved up a fret. And then we keep moving up, and then we do 1, 2, 4, 3. If you haven't memorized the 24 permutations, this will be pretty tricky. And so what I would advise is just do any of the ones that you know, or just try a few ones that are tricky. Most people know the 1, 3, 2, 4, 4, 2, 3, 1. I know Miles Dimitri Baker has a video where he talks about that as being like a good warm-up that's more difficult than just the standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really do anything with it. The point is to be doing chromatics that's really getting your left hand going and just sort of warming up your right hand with some basic string changes. After you're done with your permutations, for the next minute, you're going to be doing some string skipping / string alternating. And so for the first minute of this, there's 2 minutes total of string skipping / string alternating. For the first one, you really just want to work on simple patterns where you're going back and forth between 2 strings, basically. So the easiest one is switching between outside picking and inside picking. So as an example, outside would be. And so you can do that with 2 adjacent strings or a skip string or as many skip strings as you'd like. And so as you see in the demo I did, I slowed down a bit to do the skips because I can do this at 1/30/16, but I can do a little bit of this, but I definitely can't do. So I played triplet 8th notes for that. And there's some inside picking. And so what I would recommend is just sort of first starting with the 2 adjacent strings, doing inside picking, and you can use whatever fingers on your left hand. Your left hand's really not what's important here. That's very difficult for me. So you can just start to slow it down when you hit those really tough string changes. And so for the next minute, after you've done that, there's a specific sequence I want you to do where basically you're just alternating, picking as if you were sort of arpeggiating a chord. And so I just like to use a just sort of bullshit shape that's easy for the left hand. Straight alternate picking, down, up, down, up. Again, doesn't matter what fret you play it on. And I find this is just really good for getting that right hand warmed up. Moving on, the next thing we're going to do is 2 minutes of left hand trills. And so now we're kind of shifting. We just did some right hand focus. Now we're going to do some left hand focus. And it doesn't really matter, again, what we're playing or where we're playing it. The point is just to start exercising each of those fingers. You're going to hold your pointer finger planted the whole time, and then you can do second finger, third finger, and fourth finger. And so the way I like to do it is I like to do what I aim to do, and I can't always do, and as you can see, I didn't really do it in this warm-up, is I like to do, I guess what would be 30 seconds of that. So over the metronome. For most of you, I assume the eighth notes will be quite easy. If it's not easy, it's totally good to work on. And again, whatever speed you have to do things is totally appropriate. But so in this video, I ended up doing eighth note triplets. So on one hand, we are trying to have some control with our speed and timing of what we're doing, but really the main idea is just easing into that sort of left hand spasm that we need for doing trills, and it just helps warm things up. After you're done with that, we're going to do 1 minute of tapping. And so this is our first minute of tapping, actually. And so for this one, just use whatever your dominant finger is for tapping. I assume for most of you that will be your middle finger. If you're one of those people that likes to use their pointer finger, do that. Whatever is your strongest tapping finger. And so for this, there's actually a bit from a song by a power metal band called Guitarists that I've just always played for this warm-up. And I'll show you how to play that. That's the basic gist of it. Really, if you want to make it ultra simple, I would just do. It's pretty, my tapping finger's pretty weak, so it's pretty intense for me to do that for a long time. And it's nice to have to alternate frets as well. Keeps this hand a little active. You can also do that shape instead if you find that is weaker for you. Then I've always had a harder time using my ring finger in that kind of pattern, so that's why I like doing this. And then another good part of that little phrase is the ending, which does this sort of really mad sounding, like when the people use their pick to tap and such. And yeah, so that's a good one just to work on coordinating those two fingers. And this is good too because you can do it at different speeds, because the 16th note speed would be, and then the 30 seconds is more like messing up there, but you get the idea. And then after that, we're going to do 1 minute of 16th note bursts. I like to do these just in general to get my right hand sort of rhythm picking speed up. Basically do as fast as you can for like a low burst is what I recommend. So if you can't do 16th notes, or these are really technically 16th notes at 260, But if you can't do these 30-second notes or whatever at 130, what you can do is triplets below it or triplets above it if it's too slow. So there's always a next degree you can go if the timing's not quite right. Let's say you're doing triplet 16ths. And that's too comfortable, then you can try doing 30-second notes. So I usually can only get a sequence of 5 or maybe 9 in, so those are 5s, right? And then double that length, in theory, would be 9, where you're going. And the reason we only do that for a minute, because we'll do another minute later, is that I find that fatigues my right hand a lot, so I like to switch back to tapping. I find that if you practice back and forth between that sort of fast picking and tapping, you give yourself like a really decent break, because when you're tapping, you're using very different muscles. So it kind of lets you get the most efficient, playing at your max speed time. And so when we go back to tapping this time, we're going to do a 4-finger tapping exercise. Again, doesn't really matter how you play this, what you play, but what I do is I tend to do this kind of shape. And the reason I like this shape is because it's actually what I find really comfortable for my right hand tapping. So if I tap that same exact shape, just transposed up. I messed up there, but you get the idea. And my poor, weak pinky is not very good, but that's the point of this. Even if you never plan to use, these bonus 2 fingers for tapping, I find having to use them, it like really just warms up the hand so that when you go back to something else, you're like, woo, you're feeling it. You know what I mean? I don't do any 4-finger tapping in any songs I play or anything I really practice, but I find it's just super useful to like really get all that hand warm. Yeah. So I do just sort of a back and forth, like almost as if you're doing a weird sort of tech death tappy thing on bass, where I tap first with my left hand and then I alternate with my right hand. So it looks like this. That poor pinky. And so I just kind of cycle through it. And as you can tell, my pinky is always having a hard time, so I like to spend a little more time on that part of it. After you're done with that, we do another round of the 16th note burst or 32nd notes, whatever your fastest sort of burst speed is that you can do. Just a low enough amount of notes that you don't like fatigue yourself and you're not doing a technique that feels wrong and strained. This next thing we're going to do for 2 minutes is quite difficult, and you can see it was quite a challenge for me in my warm-up. Maybe this is a bad thing to be doing this things that are really challenging in your warm-up, but the purpose of this really is if you have to be playing your most difficult material in 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you have, this is what I would use to get there, rather than just sort of forcing into it and worrying that you might hurt yourself. And so this one really is less of a physical exercise and more of a mental exercise on your timing. The sort of easiest switch between different divisions of time would be between a quarter note or an eighth note or whatever and a triplet or a eighth note triplet or a 16th note triplet, etc. So that would be like a... And so we're just taking that same exact idea, but we're making it really complicated to kind of really have to make you focus on the timing. And so what I do is I switch between 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're doing 4 picks per 4 beats. And then what I try to do is I try to do 5. And so that is an odd grouping. And so what that will be is it will sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're accenting the upstroke every other time. And it's really hard, I find, at slow speeds. Once you get faster, it's a little easier. So let's see if I can not fuck this up. 4, 5. Back to 4. And so basically we continue to do that. So we do 4, then we do 5, then we do 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to try 7. That's very difficult, but that's kind of the point. And then after that, you move on to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we go, now it's kind of like if you put that in half, we're at 4 again, and then we go to 5 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Quintuplets. Very difficult. I'm not great at it, but I like to practice it because when you have to think about how you're putting notes within a certain amount of space, it really gets you to sort of manual timing rather than going automatic. Automatic is good and can serve us, but it can also be unconscious and bad. And so I like tuning it up a little bit with this exercise. So whatever you can do here, that's not, impossible. If the quintuplets and the 7-tuplets, whatever, is very confusing, just switch between quarter notes and triplets and just try to really focus on your timing. I like to just do it in order from slowest to fastest, going those, for 4 beats, there's 4 notes. For 4 beats, there's 5 notes. For 4 beats, there's 6 notes. For 4 beats, there's 7 notes. For 4 beats, there's 8 notes. For 4 beats, there's 10 notes. For 4 beats, there's 12 notes, etc. Good luck with that. I suck at that, but I find it super useful. And so then after that, we do a minute of down picking / up picking. And so obviously we all know down picking. I like to do short bursts. I can't down pick at 260 BPM, forever. That's all I can do, really. And I think the short bursts are useful for sort of warming up the best that you can do. If you can do longer than that, do it. And do whatever's fastest for you. If you can't do that, do. Or even just, if that's enough of a warm-up for you. And then I like to do upstrokes as well. Obviously, I don't think any of us have practiced as many upstrokes as we have downstrokes, unfortunately. But I find when I do them, everything just starts to flow better. If I really grind those upstrokes, alternate picking gets easier. I can do faster bursts when I'm trying to do that fast. So I can't do up. I can do... That's me really forcing it. I can't do that. So what I like to do is I like to do triplets below it. Because that's enough of like, wow, that's not super easy, and I'm at least activating that. If you can do up, try that, and alternate it with your downstrokes that you're practicing here in those short bursts. See, that's tough, man. All right. After that, we do a minute of legato. Any legato basically we gave the right hand a little down pick workout. We're going to give it a break immediately. So the thing I like to practice is this triplets pattern. I'm sure you've seen in a lot of solos. And you can also do it like this. Again, do more of whichever one of those patterns is weaker for you. If they're both about the same, just alternate. And just, again, do bursts for as long as you can handle, whatever your fastest speed is that you can find with that on your left hand. Basically just getting the speed going on your left hand for sort of individual picked notes. After doing that for a minute, we go back to one more minute of down picking / upstrokes. Same thing as I showed you before. Basically, we just sort of cut it in half with the legato. Switch to your left hand, give your right hand a break, and then go back to the right hand so it has a little bit of blood in it, ready to, not fatigue too quick. After you do that for a minute, I like to end with 2 minutes of sweeping. I tend to aim for sweeps that use a lot of strings. I was doing all 5-string sweeps. just because they're sort of generic. I'm not trying too much to, do shapes that are really uncomfortable for my left hand necessarily. It's really more so about trying to get my left and right hand in sync and sort of building some speed with that. So the basic shapes that I love to use. Excuse my terrible timing there. Again, little dirty barring there. Those ones are a lot easier for me to play fast. But yeah, again, working on those, start a little slow just to get it comfortable. Sweeping for me is always a little unnatural feeling, especially when I first start doing it, when I'm warming up. So the purpose is definitely just to get comfortable with that kind of motion. And again, sort of go as high speed as you can. So usually I'm just doing 16ths. But when I can, I'll do 16th triplets. Real quick, before you start, I just want to say the metronome is set at 130 beats per minute. If you don't feel super comfortable at that speed, you can use the built-in speed changing functions on YouTube. You can go 75%, 125% speed. Also, what you can do is be playing triplets, 16th triplets. You can always sort of adjust to that same fixed metronome speed where your threshold of difficulty is. If you're finding something is too easy, try bumping it up to the next notch of speed. If it's way too fast, that next notch, do it in really short bursts. That's what I'd recommend. Start out by strumming some chords for 1 minute. Next, you're going to do the 24 permutations for 4 minutes. Moving on to 1 minute of alternate picking of alternate strings. Next, you're going to play 1 minute of arpeggiated chord picking. Now you're going to move on to 2 minutes of fretting hand trills. Next, work on this tapping phrase for 1 minute. Now for 1 minute, play short bursts of your fastest picking speed. Next, you're going to do 1 minute of this 4-finger tapping exercise. And now, return to 1 more minute of high-speed picking bursts. Now for 2 minutes, try switching between eighth notes, quintuplets, triplets, septuplets, etc. Next, you're going to practice down picking and up picking for 1 minute. Now, move on to 1 minute of fretting hand legato. Again, 1 minute of down picking and up picking. Finally, end the warm-up with 2 minutes of sweeping. I hope you found this helpful. Please let me know any feedback you have. This is the first video of this kind I've made, and I want to make more. Uh, Literally, let me know anything. Was the rambling too long? Is it confusing? Did I not explain something well enough? Was the audio weird? Did I leave a click on when I was talking and you hated that? Etc. But I hope you enjoyed this. Peace.